Yeah, I'd say that repatriating ancestors, obviously, and other cultural materials and um, is incredibly significant to our tribe, and we're even working harder to repatriate or just be able to curate our own material. So when there's these Section 106, compliance projects and things, and there's the collections that come from that, we're even working to try to recover them and curate on our own rather than those materials being, often labs or other museums. That's something that I think our tribe, sees as items that are directly part of our cultural heritage. And again, it's not data, it's not just fragments of, tools that are something to be, the only purpose is studying them. I think that we're trying to have more of our own materials back, and because it shows us each site and each collection like that is one part of who we are. And so I think we're recovering that little by little, and it feels more whole and more of a sense of pride in your ancestors to see, the vast amount of technology and these sites, these villages that are all throughout a vast homeland. That I think the more that we can recover those, from projects, that I think that it's restoring, little by little, a lot of what's been lost. And then on the human remains side, obviously, in the sacred materials, then those are reburied, and that we don't publicize, that or the location. But those kind of sites are, again, also I think a sense of restoring and getting somebody who's been, their spirit hasn't been at rest, that they've been on these shelves and been poked and prodded and damaged for so long. That I think that by honoring our ancestors and restoring some sense of balance or well-being, I think that it's, it uplifts the community, I think, to do that kind of work. Yeah, so the affiliation continues to be an issue that we encounter, where it tends to be, some archaeologists will say that, I guess it's just if a person, or a site is from a earlier date, they say that it can't be affiliated, that it's somehow, I don't know exactly the thinking, if it's somehow that they believe that those people disappeared. I don't know what the thinking is, but somehow if it's in an earlier date, then they'll just be labeled unaffiliated, and then I think there's not then as much of a motivation or rationale for why to consult with tribes today, because like it's seen as those tribes aren't related, whereas a tribe, we would say, no one can directly pinpoint and draw one certain line between this individual or this site to, anyone in our tribe directly today from thousands of years ago to the present. But it's more of that's what our, oral traditions would say, this is our homeland, and it's the most likely scenario if there's an individual or cultural site within an area that we've historically occupied, that's most likely our ancestors that then we've descended from. And so we are the ones that today, as a contemporary tribal nation, stand up and speak up for that site or that ancestor. And so I guess I'm not sure why that's such a hard, jump to make. I think it seems pretty straightforward, to us. And I guess when in doubt, why would not go with the closest, affiliated tribe? So yeah, it continues to be an issue, just because sometimes we're excluded from projects or not consulted because it's seen as there's nobody who would be connected to that site. Yeah, along those lines, I think another thing to mention is the naming of sites. That's something I feel like it's taken away so much from all these topics. People appreciating Native cultures when they're out working in these sites, from the general public or archaeologists. That when sites are just named, a long string of letters and numbers, or something that just corresponds to the company or factory or whatever's on the site today, that's something very in the last few years, like modern, then people just sort of, again, discredit it, or they don't see it as, I think that lends, like the naming of something, that lends people to not see something as significant than if there is a way to find the traditional name for that place, or coming up with another culturally based name in the language of our tribe, or whatever tribe's involved. I think that the times I've seen that happen, it makes people approach a site differently. So I think that's something that is an easy change that students or archaeologists could make when they're working on the site. Is the naming of a site.